Chuck Negron's voice was the pure joy of the 70s, but his private life was a horror movie rated X. The man who screamed joy to the world actually lived in the deepest sewers of depravity and twisted bedrooms. When he took his final breath on February 2nd, 2026, he left behind a body rotted by heroin and mind-blowing sex scandals. He was the proof of how a rock star dream turns into a biological and sexual nightmare. Welcome to Iconic Lives. Born in the Bronx, he never knew his father, and his mother left him in an orphanage. This abandonment tore a hole in his soul that never closed. In the cold nights at the home, he comforted himself by singing softly in bed. That beautiful voice was actually a byproduct of pain and loneliness. He played street basketball and made college teams, but the emptiness inside was already pushing him from gyms to the smoky, boozy, lust-filled world of nightclubs. When Three Dog Night formed, Chuck was the band's shining sexual object. His vocal range was incredible, and his charisma on stage was a magnet pulling women into bed. Between 1969 and 1974, the group destroyed the charts, selling more tickets than the Beatles. Money flowed like water, but for Chuck, the real currency was women. Every night meant a different city, a different hotel room, and countless faceless women he used just to feed his hunger. The sex traffic within the band was nauseating. Chuck admitted to sleeping with over 600 women, but this wasn't just a number. It was a meat market. Groupies lined up backstage like cattle, waiting to be chosen. Sometimes he participated in mechanical, animalistic orgies lasting hours with multiple women at once, fueled by drugs. Consent boundaries were blurry in these parties, and Chuck acted like the master of this dark, exploitative harem. Heroin started as fuel to endure these limitless sex marathons. He thought it boosted his sexual power, but it was actually castrating him. The artificial peace he felt at the first hit turned into a love affair that ruined his life. He began injecting thousands of dollars into his veins daily. Before hitting the stage, he would vomit in toilets, using pockets to hide shaking hands. That glorious voice and sex machine was now just a slave working for the next fix. Hygiene was a forgotten concept inside the drug fog. Once, due to the numbness from heroin, his penis began to rot because of a condom he left on for months. The infection was so bad that his organ became unrecognizable, turned black, and started to smell. Doctors said it was gangrene and might need amputation. This was the most shameful, disgusting medical scandal in rock history, completely destroying his rock god image in a single moment. Then the infamous penis explosion scandal broke out. One night, during violent intercourse fueled by an overdose of drugs and alcohol, a blood vessel in his sexual organ ruptured. The bed turned into a pool of blood, and Chuck was rushed to the hospital in agony. The tabloids ran headlines like, "Chuck Negron's penis exploded." While the whole world mocked him, he was left alone in that hospital room with physical pain and the humiliation of his manhood. Sex addiction and drugs drove him to moral collapse. He had sex not for pleasure, but because he felt nothing. His relationships were so twisted that it was alleged he sometimes offered partners to others for drugs or used women as pawns in drug parties. These environments were swamps with no love, only sweat, blood, and narcotics. Chuck was both the hunter and the hunted in this swamp. He had traded his soul for lust and poison. His wealth melted away. He sold over 30 sports cars, mansions, and gold records. It was all spent on the poison entering his nose, arm, and sexual hunger. The man who once filled stadiums was now begging dealers in the back alleys of Los Angeles. Once he crawled on the floor for days to pick up spilled heroin dust. He snorted carpet lint, dust, and dirt indiscriminately. This was where human dignity ended and an animalistic addiction began. His body went bankrupt. The septum tissue inside his nose melted and fell out from constant snorting. The inside of his nose was now a single void, whistling when he breathed. His lungs were full of pus. His teeth were falling out. He was skin and bones, weighing under 130 pounds. his family and bandmates gave up hope. He was a walking dead man, and everyone was waiting for the obituary. 3 Dog Night had to fire him from the band to survive. He became homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings and cars. There were days he ate from the garbage. The sex symbol women once worshipped was now a foul-smelling bum people crossed the street to avoid. He woke up in his own vomit, countless mornings. Death was so close that he was hospitalized for overdoses several times and miraculously revived. But every resurrection led him back to that cursed needle and those dark streets of shame. One of the biggest traumas was robbing his own house for drug money. He emptied his children's piggy banks and stole his wife's jewelry. Even the look of fear and disgust in his family's eyes couldn't stop him. In those moments, Chuck Negron didn't exist. Only a puppet ruled by heroin remained. The boy who grew up fatherless was now on a path to leave his own children fatherless. This cyclical curse would become his greatest conscience torment. He went in and out of rehab centers countless times. He tried over 30 times. Each time he said, "This is the last one." But the devil was always stronger. At one center, he tried to kill himself by smashing his head against a wall. The despair was so deep that living was a punishment. But one day, at rock bottom, a miracle or perhaps just a survival instinct kicked in. He prayed to God, and this time he felt he could make his voice heard. A long and painful recovery process began. As his body shook with withdrawals, his soul faced the sins of the past. He remembered every mistake, every heart broken, every woman used, and every life ruined. This confrontation was harder than physical pain. But Chuck didn't run away this time. He managed to stay clean and slowly began to build a new man from under that wreckage. It took years to regain his voice, but it wasn't the old voice anymore. With his book, 3 Dog Nightmare, he aired all his dirty laundry. He hid nothing: the rotting penis, the bursting veins, the 600 women, the stolen money. This honesty was his atonement. He showed people the true face of fame and drugs, the pus beneath that glittering mask. He was no longer just a singer, but a cautionary tale. When he returned to the stage years later, people saw not a ghost, but a veteran returned from hell. But his final years were not easy. He was diagnosed with COPD. Years of smoking and drug use had destroyed his lungs. He struggled to breathe, but kept singing. He went backstage with oxygen tanks, using every last drop of his immense energy on stage. The ghosts of the past returned as physical illnesses. His body was paying the heaviest bill in old age for those wild sex marathons and toxic nights he committed in his reckless youth. And that day came. February 2nd, 2026. Chuck Negron passed away quietly at his home in Los Angeles, surrounded by his family. He died in peace, not in a hotel room with a hooker or a needle. When the news spread, the world realized it lost not just a voice, but a survival miracle. One is the loneliest number played on radios that day, but Chuck was no longer alone. He departed on his final journey as a warrior who won his civil war. Chuck Negron's story is not just music history, but proof of how lust and addiction turn a human into a monster. He saw the peak and the absolute bottom. He transformed from a rotting sexual organ into an inspiring soul. Today on Iconic Lives, we saw the bloody, puss-filled, and scandalous truth behind the rock star myth. When the lights go out, the only thing left is the naked truth. And Chuck's truth was painfully naked. Goodbye.